Hello my friends and welcome back. Finally got access to my own desk again now that school is over. Feels good, man. Feels good. I'm mixing things up a little bit this week by doing a tutorial, so I'll go ahead and keep the intro pretty short and sweet. This week we're going to go over how to read labels on different skeins, balls, and cakes of yarn, and we'll also go over how to do a chain as well as a single crochet. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll end up with two small, cute little projects at the end. Now we're gonna go segue and do the thing. We'll start off with what is found most often in your local stores or online, a skein of yarn. Red Heart is a very common brand, and their Super Staver is kind of their standard yarn that they have available. This is an older skein, so it's a little worn out here. The first picture that's going to have the number in it is going to tell you the weight of the yarn. So this is going to be a medium or a 4, also known as a worsted weight. The second image will show you the recommended hook that Red Heart is suggesting that you use for this specific type of yarn. The label will also include the weight as well as the length of yarn that is going to be included in this skein. The color of this specific yarn is called Spa Blue Fleck, and you'll notice there's going to be a dye lot number. Some yarns will vary ever so slightly in their final color. If you're wanting your piece to be the same color throughout without any variation, you'll want to make sure that you pick up yarns with that same dye lot number. Moving on to this other example of a skein of yarn. This is some big twist yarn. You'll see it has the same symbols. It's a number 4 worsted weight, and it'll also show you the size of crochet hook that it recommends. Just like the Red Heart skein, it'll tell you the color and the lot number, and this skein actually comes with a suggestion on it advising the same thing I just said, making sure to buy enough of that same lot number to make sure you've got the same consistent color throughout your project. This skein of yarn happens to be 100% acrylic. And another example of a skein of yarn. Hirschner's worsted weight happens to be Hirschner's worsted 8 happens to be my favorite kind of yarn to use because it comes in so many colors. 100% acrylic, just like the previous skein. It gives you the recommended hook size. It'll give you that symbol showing you that it is a size 4 worsted weight yarn. And if I pull strands from all 3 of these, you'll see that they're all similar in size. Whereas if you have something thinner, this is an example of a number 2 or a fine weight yarn. This one is also 100% acrylic, smaller in weight and length, and it does recommend a smaller hook size. Joe Bear. Meow. Ma'am. Here's an example of some cotton yarn. Oh my god, Josie. It's also going to be a 4, and it gives you the hook recommendation. Excuse me, this is a cotton and polyester blend, and another example of a sugar and cream skein of cotton yarn. You'll find all the yarns will have similar images, similar coding, showing you the weight of the yarn as well as the hook size recommendation. So here is the family of skeins used in our example. And let me just scooch them out of the way. Let's talk crochet hooks. Now, crochet hooks will come in all different styles and out of many different materials, different sizes. Excuse me, come on back here. Thank you. This one will be an aluminum hook. You'll see the end of it is got a nice smooth taper, no sharp edges. These two come with some silicone handles. These are actually my favorite kinds of hooks to use because they've got just that little bit of give. You'll see a comparison of the different sizes here. Excuse me, you can come back here. Fine, looking for attention, we'll use you. Some are going to be handmade like this one. Handmade out of some wood. It's got a thicker grip on it, and it feels really nice in the hand.
Good night, everybody.
Back to our silicone baby here. You'll see each hook will be labeled by size, signified by a letter as well as a width measured in millimeters. Then we have little bitty hooks like this. I've used this one quite a bit, so it's a little worn down. And then we have hooks that, excuse me. We have hooks like this that'll also have a plastic handle. And here's another example of a rather large crochet hook that I have made out of different colored woods, and the artisan who made this one hand wrote the letter on the hook for me. And a little comparison between the largest hook and the smallest hook. Let me go ahead and scooch these out of the way as well. In addition to your crochet hook, you'll also need a good pair of scissors, as well as a yarn needle. These needles will often be anywhere between 2 to 3 inches long. To demonstrate our chain stitch, I'm going to use this Premier cotton that I had out earlier. The skein recommends an I, or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Instead, I like to make my stitches a little tighter, and the way you can accomplish that is by using a smaller hook. So I will be using a G, or 4.0 millimeter crochet hook. Now pardon me while I root around in here to pull out some yarn guts. And now I've got my center pull. The yarn is also wound around the outside, and some folks like to just use the yarn from the outside. I prefer to use the inside because then it's less likely to roll around. Sometimes it'll involve a little untangling to begin with, but for me it's worth it. The first thing we're going to do is a slip knot. Not that kind of slip knot. I'm going to hold my yarn with the tail facing me, pinch it in the middle, give it a twist, and now I've got this X, twisting it away from you as if you were turning a car's ignition. I'm going to go from underneath and grab the end of the yarn that is still attached to the yarn skein and grab that loop, pinch it, pull it through while simultaneously pulling the bottom of that tail tight. Now you can pull on the end of the yarn that's still connected to the skein to loosen or tighten that loop. You can also pull that knot right out. I'll show it again. If I go from the top, pinch and grab the end not connected to the yarn, the loose end will be the end that I can pull and use to adjust the size of this loop. This is my preferred way of doing the loop. Next, we just insert the hook into this loop. Now, there are many different ways to hold a crochet hook. I prefer to hang on to mine using my entire fist. To hold onto the yarn, the finished work, I will hang on between my thumbs and mostly my ring finger, sometimes my pinky's in there. To hang on to the yarn that's still connected to the skein, I'll feed it between my pointer and middle finger. To make a chain stitch, we're going to hang on to our hook and loop it underneath the yarn and pull it through the loop already on my hook. This gives me a new loop on my hook. And we just continue to do that until we reach the desired length of chain. Do a couple more here to show you as an example. Now you can see here that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains on my hook, and I can proceed from here as long as I desire. For this particular project we're making, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I've got 16 chains hanging off the end of my hook. From here we can begin our first row of single crochet. We're going to insert our hook in the second chain from the hook, from front to back. We'll catch the yarn from underneath with the hook and pull it through that first stitch. We're going to yarn over one more time and pull it through the 2 loops that are left on our hook, and that forms our single crochet. Insert our hook into the chain, yarn over and pull through the 1 stitch, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on the hook. And we can proceed like that all the way down our foundation chain. Admire your progress and proceed. Once you've reached the end, take a moment to admire your very first row of crochet. And just like with counting the chains, you'll count the little bumps, 1 bump per stitch. To turn our row, we're going to chain 1 at the end. Just going to pull this tight here. Then we will turn our work or flip it. And you'll see the chain here. We're going to skip that and work our first single crochet in both loops of this stitch. You'll see there is a front loop and a back loop. We're going to work through both of these. Insert our hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through both loops. And we'll proceed to do this all the way across. Now that we have made a second row of single crochet, you can see the difference between the 2 rows. First and the second. And just like between the first and second, we'll chain 1, flip our work over, and continue to work in both loops, single crocheting all the way to the edge. I don't think I mentioned this, but we're actually making a small coaster. This is a very simple project, all single crochet. It gives you something functional at the end of practicing your single crochet work. I will have a link to the free written pattern that's available on my Ravelry page in the description box below. But we are going to proceed like this, flipping back and forth, kind of zigzagging our way along until we reach 16 rows in total. I'm going to time lapse this, but feel free to pause the video until you have completed your 16th row. So now we are going to work on the edging. We're going to chain 1. However, instead of flipping our work, we're going to turn our work 90 degrees and work along this edge. You'll see the entire edge is made up of little spaces in between the stitches. You'll insert your hook just like you were inserting it into your completed work. Yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, and make your single crochets all the way along this edge. Once you've reached the end of your edge, you're going to work 3 single crochets into this corner. You'll work 1, 2, and 3 single crochets here, and then we'll proceed along the opposite side of the foundation chain from the very beginning of this project. And just like the opposite corner, This is where our slip knot is hiding. We'll work 3 single crochets in here. Here's 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Pull that slip knot tight again and work up the opposite side here. We'll repeat with working these 3 single crochets in the remaining corners. Once we reach the end here, we'll make 3 single crochets. Now this is where we worked that chain 1 and turned our work. We're going to skip the chain 1. Now we're going to slip stitch by inserting our hook, yarning over and pulling through that stitch, and taking the same loop and pulling it through the second loop that's still on our hook. Cut our yarn, and now we'll yarn over and pull through, but pull the yarn all the way through the loop and pull it tight. For now we will weave in the tail using our yarn needle. Feed it through the eye of the needle, and I like to insert my needle between the front and back loop to kind of hide it within the stitch. And then I will wiggle my needle in between the stitches. Thread it within the stitch so it's hidden. Once I've got it pulled through, maybe 6, 7, however many stitches I feel I need to fit it through, I'll cut off the end, give it a little tug to pull in those loose threads, and now I have a coaster for my coffee, which by now is cold. Good job, everybody. You made your own coaster. What's this? A call to action? Well, since you're here, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Give that old like button a smash to mess with the algorithm. I've got social media on Instagram as well as Facebook, and a couple shops through Etsy as well as Ravelry. All appropriate links are going to be in the description box below. And now back to your regular scheduled programming. Hi, Editing Holly here. If you're still sticking around, I'm really sorry for the length of this one, but at least you get to learn how to do 2 projects at the end. I'll make sure that I have timestamps for the 2 different projects in the description below to try to make it a little easier to navigate. Okay, love you, bye.
Round 2, fight!
For our next project, we're going to use some of this big twist yarn in this bright, fun pink color. Just like we did before, we're going to make our slip knot. And start with our chains. We're going to chain 6, give ourselves 1 extra chain, and then begin single crocheting in the second chain from the hook and single crochet along the remaining 5 stitches. We'll chain 1 and turn. Now in this first stitch, we're going to work 2 single crochets. We will work a single crochet in the next 4 stitches. And work 2 single crochets in this final stitch. At the end of this row, we should have 8 single crochet stitches. Going to chain 1 and turn, single crochet in each stitch across. We'll flip our work and again work 2 single crochets in this first stitch, single crochet in the next 6 stitches, and work 2 single crochets in that final stitch. Now we're going to repeat with this single crocheting across the 10 stitches until we've reached 8 rows in total. Now I will also include the pattern for this project in the description box below as well. I actually took this footage around springtime and it was around Easter, so I had Peeps on my mind. That's right, friends, we're going to crochet a little plush Peep. A Peep rabbit, to be clear. Now we're going to learn how to crochet 2 together. Let's see our chain 1, and we're going to start by inserting our hook in the front loop only of our first stitch. We'll yarn over and pull through. While keeping these 2 loops on the hook, we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch, again front loop only, yarn over and pull through. Now we should have 3 loops on our hook. Next we'll yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now we've successfully crocheted 2 together. We'll go ahead and single crochet across the next 6 stitches. And we're going to do it again, inserting our hook into the first stitch, front loop only, yarn over, pull through, inserting our hook into that second stitch, again front loop only, yarn over and pull through, yarning over and pulling through all 3 stitches on the hook. From here, we'll chain 1 and turn and single crochet in each stitch across. For row 11, we'll start off with our chain 1 and turn, and then crochet 2 together, single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then single crochet the last 2 stitches together. We'll chain 1 and turn and single crochet in each stitch across. From here, you have our little Peep belly all set to go. Got a nice curve. And now we need to start on the head. So we're going to chain 1 and turn and work 2 single crochets into this first stitch. Single crochet in the next 4 stitches and work 2 single crochets in that final stitch. We'll chain 1 and turn, and the next 4 rows will consist of just single crocheting in each stitch across. For the final row of the head, we'll start out by single crocheting our first 2 stitches together. If I can get my hook in here. Single crocheting across the next 4 stitches and single crocheting those last 2 stitches together. Now that'll be the head. So right now you should have this funky looking flat peanut shape. To start the ears, we'll chain 1 and turn. And we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, leaving the remaining stitches unworked. Now we'll ignore those, chain 1 and turn, and single crochet across the next couple of stitches. The nice thing about crochet is that if you don't like how something's turning out, you can just pull on that yarn attached to the skein and it'll unravel what you've done if you remove your hook. I did unravel that work all the way back to row 19, so I only have 2 stitches left in the row, leaving the remaining 4 unworked. We will continue to chain 1 and turn and single crochet across these 2 stitches until we've reached 24 rows in total, or there should be 6 rows of ear right now. In that last row of the ear, we're going to chain 1, turn, and single crochet these 2 stitches together. We will fasten off by snipping our yarn, yarning over, and pulling that end through. To work on the second ear, we will skip the next 2 stitches of row 18, and we're going to insert our hook into that next stitch. Grab onto our yarn. We're going to yarn over and pull it through, joining our yarn to our work. We'll chain 1, and we're going to single crochet into this same stitch, as well as the next stitch. And now we have our 2 stitches to form the start of that second ear. Just like the first, we'll chain 1 and single crochet across the next 2 stitches again until we reach row 24, or there will be 5 rows consisting of just ear. And then just as the first, with row 25, we will single crochet these 2 stitches together. Instead of fastening off our yarn after that second ear, we'll continue using it and work on some edging. We're going to chain 1 and flip our work around. So we begin working up the side, and we're going to single crochet into the spaces on the sides of each row. Now to make our corners not so sharp, we're just going to work 2 single crochets in the first bottom corner of our peep. A single crochet along the bottom of the foundation chain. Work 2 single crochets in the other bottom corner of our peep. And continue to work up the opposite side of our peep. Once we get to the top of the ears, we're going to work 4 single crochets into the very tip of the ear. So give it a nice rounded look. Crochet along the inner edge of the ear. And then in those 2 stitches that we skipped on the top of the head of the rabbit, we're going to single crochet those 2 together. Then we'll continue to work up the side of the second ear and work those 4 single crochets in the top of the other ear. Skipping the chain 1 we used to turn, we can go ahead and slip stitch into the first single crochet of this round. Snip our yarn and pull that end through to fasten off. Now we have 1 whole side of a Peep bunny. Now we get to do it all over again. Uh-oh, my magic transition fingers went too far. Just kidding. Instead of getting started on our second half right away, I'm going to take the time to embroider the face on the bunny with some brown yarn. Any scraps of some chocolatey colored brown will do. And now we can make our second half of a peep. If your magic transition hand isn't working to give you a second half of a peep, you can go back to this timestamp for a replay of the instructions. Now to connect the front and back half of our peeps, we're going to stack 1 on top of the other and match up their stitches. And then we're going to join our yarn by inserting our hook through both the front and the back halves and pulling the yarn through. Chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in these same stitches. I'm a little closer here, working my way through both pieces, catching my yarn and pulling through the loop, catching my yarn and pulling it through the 2 loops on my hook to form my single crochets. We're going to do this all the way up the side of our peep until we reach those 4 single crochets at the very tip of the ear. Once we reach those 4 at the top, we're going to single crochet through the first set, crochet 2 single crochets in each of the next 2 pairs of stitches. And then again, work a single crochet in that 4th pair of stitches. We'll continue to work our way down the ear. Working our way through the stitches and do the same at the tip of the second ear. Once we've made our way around that second ear, you can continue down the side of that ear. Once complete, you can go ahead and take some time to stuff them now, just with some polyester stuffing or fiberfill. Continue single crocheting down the side of your peep, adding stuffing as you go, so you're not adding it all at the very end and can get into those nooks and crannies. As soon as we reach the bottom, we'll work 2 single crochets to again make that corner not so sharp. We'll single crochet along the bottom, work those last 2 single crochets, and then finally slip stitch into the first single crochet of this round. Fasten that off. And once we've weaved in that end, congratulations, my friend, you've made yourself an adorable plush little Peep. And if you happen to use either one of these tutorials, feel free to share your work. I would love to see it. Tag me at Holly's Hooks or hashtag Holly's Hooks. I may even share some of your creations on my Instagram. You did it! Now you can chain and single crochet and read all the yarn labels your little heart could desire. If you want me to whip up some more tutorials on other crochet stitches, let me know in the comments or go ahead and give the little old like button a click. And with that, I thank y'all very much for watching. I appreciate the crap out of you. Okay, I love you, bye. Oh, ball sacks, I don't even remember what I'm doing. Ow. I kicked myself in my shin bruise. And read all the yarn labels you could ever have hoped or wished to. That sounds stupid. There's a void on my feet is. Oh. Never mind.